Cut out of my sister's wedding, I escaped to paradise. When everything fell apart, my family desperately tried to reach me, but I wasn't going back. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm sharing the story of a person who made a bold decision to break free from family expectations and finally live for themselves. It's a journey of self-discovery and independence, where the character learns to let go of guilt and take control of their own happiness. Have you ever felt like you're constantly fixing everyone else's problems, only to be ignored when you need help? Stay tuned to see how the character chooses peace over chaos and reclaims their life. And if you enjoy the story, make sure to subscribe to the channel to keep me inspired to bring more stories like this to you. It was the morning I received the text that everything changed. I had just finished my usual coffee and was sitting in my small New York City apartment scrolling through Instagram. But then it popped up an unexpected message from my sister, Julia. The wedding invitation, which should have come months ago, wasn't arriving in the mail. Instead, I received this cold, digital notification. Hey, just letting you know that the guest list is finalized. Had to make some tough cuts. Hope you understand. Love you. I stared at it, reading the words over and over as if trying to will them into something more meaningful. My chest tightened and an icy wave of disbelief hit me. This couldn't be real. Julia, my own sister, had just cut me out of the most significant day of her life. I immediately called her, my fingers trembling as I dialed. She picked up almost instantly. Hey, what's up? She said, sounding upbeat as if she hadn't just shattered my heart. Julia, I started, trying to keep my voice calm despite the rage boiling inside me. I just got your message. What do you mean I'm not invited to your wedding? I'm your brother. There was a long pause. I could feel her trying to come up with an excuse, her voice suddenly faltering. Oh, it's just a wedding, she sighed. It's not a big deal. We had to keep it small. You know how weddings are, expensive. You'd probably prefer not to come anyway. Expensive? I couldn't believe this. I had supported her through thick and thin, helped her move twice, paid rent when she was between jobs, helped her get over a horrible breakup. And now I wasn't even good enough to be there on her special day. I felt my heart sink, but something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to be the understanding, forgiving brother anymore. No, not this time. I hung up, the click of the phone punctuating my resolve. I wasn't going to beg to be included. Instead, I decided to do something I'd never done before. For years, I had been the one who always picked up the pieces, the one who held my family together when everything felt like it was falling apart. It was a role I never asked for, but somehow I ended up in it. I was the peacemaker, the problem solver, the person who buried my own feelings in order to carry the weight of everyone else's. But not anymore. After hanging up with Julia, I felt a cold, familiar bitterness creeping in, but this time something was different. I wasn't angry in the same way I had been before. Instead, I felt a strange sense of clarity, as if the fog that had clouded my mind for so long had suddenly lifted. I had spent so many years sacrificing my happiness for the sake of others, but now it was time to stop. I walked over to my desk, my fingers moving automatically over the keyboard as I opened up a travel booking site. Without thinking twice, I began searching for flights. A week-long getaway in the Caribbean, just for me. The destination didn't even matter. I wasn't just booking a vacation, I was booking a statement. The trip would be my declaration of independence, my way of showing the universe that I was no longer going to let the demands of my family dictate my life. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I didn't need to feel guilty about putting myself first for once. Less than an hour later, everything was set. Flights were booked. A suite at a 5-star resort overlooking the ocean. A private beach with crystal clear water, luxurious spa treatments, and all-inclusive amenities. It felt like a dream, one that I had been denying myself for far too long. I thought about the countless times I'd told myself, maybe next year, maybe when things settle down. But things never settled down. My family's drama never ended, and the moment I took for myself was always pushed aside. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't inform anyone. I didn't owe them an explanation. For the first time in my life, I was doing something just for me. No more family drama, no more guilt trips, just peace. And if they thought I was being dramatic? Fine. Let them. I had finally reached a point where I stopped caring about how my actions would be perceived by others. As the days passed leading up to my departure, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I kept thinking about how, for years, I had been the anchor for everyone around me, my mom, my sister, my cousins, always there, always available to fix things. I had been the person who didn't say no, who always took on the burden even when it was unfair, even when it was killing me inside. But now I was taking back control. I was choosing to be selfish in the most freeing way possible. The night before my flight, I sat on my couch, staring at my phone. I almost wanted to call my mom, let her know that I was leaving, that I wasn't going to be there for the wedding, but I stopped myself. No explanations, no apologies. I simply turned off my phone and put it in my bag, knowing that I wouldn't look at it again until I was on the other side of the world. The next day, I was sitting in a first-class seat, sipping champagne as the plane soared high above the clouds. The moment I settled into my seat, I felt a weight lift off my chest that I didn't even realize was there. For the first time in years, I wasn't responsible for anyone else. I wasn't answering calls, taking care of problems, or stepping in to fix what had gone wrong. I was finally free. The flight was long, but the discomfort of being away from home didn't bother me. Every mile that separated me from New York City felt like another layer of stress peeling off. As we flew over the vast Atlantic Ocean, I found myself staring out of the window, watching the soft, white clouds drift by. The world seemed so big and so full of possibilities, and for the first time in ages, I wasn't worried about anything or anyone. I was just there. When I landed at my destination, the warm, salty air of the Caribbean greeted me like an old friend. I stepped off the plane and took a deep breath, inhaling the sweet fragrance of the tropical flowers that seemed to be everywhere. The sun was shining brightly, and I could feel the tension in my body begin to melt away. The resort was everything I had imagined: white sand beaches, crystal-clear turquoise waters, and an open-air lobby that welcomed me like I was the most important guest in the world. I felt like a new person. The concierge greeted me with a fresh coconut drink, and I couldn't help but smile. I had been so caught up in the chaos of my life for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to truly relax. As I walked through the resort, I could feel the weight of responsibility that had been dragging me down for years start to evaporate. Here, I wasn't Michael the problem solver, the peacemaker. Here, I was just a man who had finally decided to live for himself. I checked into my suite, which had an ocean view that looked like something out of a postcard. The soft sounds of the waves crashing against the shore were all I could hear. The suite was stunning, with floor-to-ceiling windows that opened up to a balcony where I could sit and watch the sunset every evening. There was a massive king-sized bed, and I sank into it, feeling like I had entered a different world. The first thing I did was open the sliding door to the balcony and let the warm breeze wash over me. I leaned on the railing and took in the view, the endless expanse of blue ocean, the small boats sailing by, and the sun dipping below the horizon. This was my moment. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to rush or take care of anyone else. I could simply exist. The next few days were a blur of relaxation and discovery. I spent my mornings lounging by the pool, sipping fresh fruit juices and reading books I had never had time to finish. I tried paddle boarding for the first time, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the courage to try. Each new experience felt like a small victory. I was pushing my boundaries and living on my terms, not for anyone else. In the evenings, I would head to one of the resort's many restaurants, enjoying seafood so fresh it tasted like it was caught just moments ago. I would watch the sunset from the beach, feeling the cool sand beneath my toes, and just allow myself to feel at peace. One evening, as I was sitting by the beach with a drink in my hand, I glanced at my phone for the first time in days. There were several missed calls from my mom, a few texts from Julia, and a couple of messages from my cousins. But I ignored them. For the first time, I wasn't worried about what they thought of me. I snapped a picture of the view, the sun setting behind the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water, and posted it with the caption, "When you get cut from the guest list, but you still find paradise." The comments started rolling in almost immediately. Some family members laughed, some sent their condolences. But it didn't matter. I was exactly where I needed to be. And just like that, I realized that the most important relationship I had neglected for all these years wasn't with my family, it was with myself. By the end of the week, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going back. Not yet. I needed this time, this space to rediscover who I was outside of the roles I had always played in my family. I extended my stay for another week, a decision that felt both freeing and empowering. I wasn't doing this for anyone but myself. The final days of my trip were filled with even more relaxation and self-discovery. As I sipped my coffee on the balcony, watching the ocean waves roll in, I knew that I would never again let anyone or anything take away my peace. This trip was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I put myself first for the first time in years. And the best part? No one could guilt-trip me into returning. Not this time. For the first time in ages, I woke up without an alarm clock. The sun streamed through the enormous windows of my suite, casting a golden hue over the soft linens, filling the room with a warm, inviting glow. There was no rush, no demands, no nagging messages or phone calls. I felt completely at peace. The past few days had been a whirlwind of liberation. No more guilt, no more family chaos, just a quiet room and the soothing sound of the ocean waves crashing on the shore below. It felt as if the weight that had been pressing on my chest for so many years was slowly but surely melting away. I ordered room service, a breakfast of fluffy pancakes stacked high with fresh fruit, syrup dripping down the sides, and coffee so rich it made every cup I'd ever had before taste like mud. I didn't even check my phone at first. It was too easy to get sucked back into the world I was trying to escape. But eventually, curiosity got the better of me. I swiped open my phone to find a flood of messages, most from my mom, naturally. "Where are you?" she texted, her words tinged with panic. "Julia's wedding is a disaster. You need to come back." I couldn't help but smirk as I read her message. It was exactly what I had expected. They were scrambling, desperate to pull me back into their mess. But I wasn't about to let them guilt-trip me into coming back. Not this time. I'd spent my whole life being the one to pick up the pieces for everyone else, and I was done. It was my time now. I hit ignore and set the phone down on the table, feeling a small surge of satisfaction. The sun outside was starting to climb higher in the sky, and I could feel its warmth spreading through the room. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes for a moment, and just enjoyed the silence. I wasn't needed. For once, it was okay to not be needed. But then my phone buzzed again, this time from Julia. "Please answer your phone. This is all falling apart," she pleaded. Her desperation was evident, but I was resolute. I had been there for her through countless moments of crisis, but now I was reclaiming my space. I glanced at the message, then at the view from my balcony. The shimmering blue ocean stretched out as far as the eye could see, a picture-perfect view that seemed to reflect the peace I was feeling in that moment. I couldn't help but smile. This was freedom. I uploaded a picture of my legs stretched out by the pool, a cocktail in hand, the ocean behind me. The caption read, "Guess I got cut from the guest list, but I think I'll survive." I sent it out into the world, and within minutes, the comments started flooding in. Some of my cousins laughed it off with a string of laughing emojis. Others, like my aunt, sent a more supportive message, "Good for you, should have taken me with you." But it was my mom's response that stood out. "I can't believe you're doing this," she texted, and I felt a strange mix of guilt and relief. It was a reminder of everything I had been running from. But I wasn't going back. Not this time. No regrets. The next few days passed in a blur of bliss. I spent my mornings enjoying breakfast on the balcony, watching the world wake up from my serene little corner of paradise. I'd sip my coffee, savoring every drop, feeling it invigorate me as I watched the sun rise higher in the sky. I was living in the moment. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't have to worry about anyone else's problems but my own. By the afternoons, I was lounging by the pool with nothing to do but relax. The sun warmed my skin, and the soft breeze carried the faint scent of saltwater and tropical flowers. I could hear the gentle hum of the resort in the background, guests chatting, waiters serving drinks, the distant sound of the ocean. But in that moment, I was completely alone, wrapped in my own sense of peace. There was something incredibly soothing about not having anyone demand anything from me. No one was asking for help, no one needed saving, and I wasn't expected to fix anything. It was just me, the sun, and the ocean. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty about it. In the evenings, I ventured out to explore the nearby town, a quaint little fishing village with colorful shops and vibrant street art. The streets were narrow and winding, filled with the chatter of locals and tourists alike. I spent hours just wandering, soaking in the atmosphere, tasting fresh seafood from local vendors and sipping cocktails as the sun set behind the mountains. The air was warm, and the golden glow of the setting sun made everything feel magical. It was as if the whole world had slowed down and I was finally able to catch up. Each night, I'd return to my room a little sunburned, a little tired, but completely content. I didn't check my phone again, not once. The emails, the texts, the missed calls, they didn't matter. What mattered was that I was here, in this beautiful place, on my own terms. It was a rare gift, and I was going to make the most of it. But even in my newfound tranquility, the world back home was still spinning. I couldn't completely shut it out, no matter how hard I tried. The texts from my family kept coming, one after another, each one more desperate than the last. My mom's text was followed by a flood of messages from my cousins and even my aunt, all begging me to come back. I didn't respond to any of them. The more they tried to pull me back, the more resolute I became. This was my time, and nothing was going to take it away. I let the messages sit there, piling up. Eventually, I turned my phone off completely. The last thing I wanted was to fall back into the same cycle of guilt and obligation. I wasn't going to answer their calls. I wasn't going to go back, and I wasn't going to feel bad about it. Not anymore. Hey, are you finding the story interesting so far? If you are, make sure to subscribe to the channel so we can continue the adventure together. The best part is just ahead. It wasn't until the third day that I saw the flood of messages from my family. And let me tell you, it was karma at its finest. The sense of relief I felt when I realized I hadn't answered a single one of those calls or texts was almost intoxicating. The universe, in its peculiar way, was giving me exactly what I needed: freedom. And in the most delightful twist, my family was giving me one of the best gifts I could ever have asked for: proof that I had made the right decision to walk away. I opened a text from my cousin Jake, and it hit me like a punchline to a joke I hadn't heard before. "Bro, you dodged a bullet. Julia's wedding is a mess." The groom walked out in the middle of the ceremony. A burst of laughter escaped my lips, louder than I expected, drawing a few curious glances from the people around me on the beach. I didn't care. It was too perfect. The perfect mix of irony and satisfaction. The one day I wasn't there, and everything fell apart. Julia, the one person I had been there for all these years, had just watched the very foundation of her perfect wedding crumble in real time. And I, the one who had been deemed unnecessary, was in paradise, completely free of the chaos. Jake's messages kept coming, and I couldn't help but read them with a smug grin plastered across my face. "Yeah, so, the groom left after a huge fight. Your mom and Aunt Lisa are fighting about who's to blame for the disaster." I had to stop myself from laughing out loud. The groom left. Of course he did. Of course everything fell apart. Julia and her perfect little world had always been this fragile thing that only worked when everyone around her played the role she assigned them. And here I was, completely outside of that role for once, watching it all unravel. The funniest part, though? They were blaming me. Apparently, "Your mom and Aunt Lisa think if you were there, you would have saved the wedding," Jake texted. They're all freaking out. The irony was too sweet. For years, I had been the one to fix their messes. Whenever anything went wrong, I was the go-to person. I was the problem solver, the one who made everything better. I was the guy who always showed up, no matter how much it cost me, emotionally or mentally. I had always been the one to pick up the pieces when everything broke down. But now, I was the one who wasn't there to save them, and they couldn't handle it. It was almost too much to bear, watching them scramble, watching them flounder without me. They needed me, but I was miles away, soaking up the sun on a beach, having the time of my life. Couldn't help but laugh harder. This was the universe's gift to me. For all the times I had been the one to put others' needs before my own, now I was finally getting a chance to see the consequences of their actions when I wasn't there to fix them. It wasn't about revenge. It was about finally realizing that my presence wasn't a fix-all, and that maybe, just maybe, they needed to handle their own problems for once. I didn't bother responding to Jake, though part of me wanted to let them know how deeply amused I was. Instead, I raised my glass to the universe, silently toasting to the best wedding gift I could have received. It wasn't the trip. It wasn't the relaxation. It wasn't the beach. It was the realization that I could walk away and not feel guilty about it. As I sat there on the beach, the salt air swirling around me and the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, I felt a sense of peace that I hadn't known in years. The messages kept coming, each one more frantic than the last, but I didn't care. I wasn't about to get pulled back into their drama. I wasn't going to be the one who always fixed things anymore. Not now. Not ever again. I glanced at my phone again, half expecting another barrage of messages. Instead, it was a message from my mom. I didn't even need to read it to know exactly what it was going to say. She probably wanted me to come back, to fix things, to be there for Julia, to help salvage whatever was left of the wedding. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how freeing it was to not have to respond to their drama. I didn't owe anyone anything. I wasn't responsible for their happiness. This moment was mine, and I was going to enjoy every second of it. The freedom I felt was overwhelming, almost like I had stepped into a new version of myself. One who was no longer bound by family expectations. One who didn't feel the need to apologize for choosing peace over chaos. While I was sitting on the beach, enjoying the peace and reflecting on the chaos back home, a fellow traveler approached me. She was a retired woman named Diane, who had been traveling the world for years, living life on her own terms. We struck up a conversation, and as we talked, I realized how much she had in common with me. She shared her own story of family drama, how she had cut ties with her toxic relatives years ago and had never looked back. She told me how, at some point in her life, she realized that she didn't need to sacrifice her own happiness for the sake of others. She gave me a few words of wisdom about living life for yourself and not being tied down by other people's expectations. Her story resonated with me deeply. I felt like she was talking to me directly, reminding me that it was okay to put myself first. "You're not just dodging a bullet, darling," she said with a knowing smile. "You're dodging a whole war. Your family will survive without you, just like they've always managed to survive. And you're finally living your own life." Her words hit me like a revelation. I wasn't the only one who had been through this, and I wasn't the only one who had made the decision to walk away from family obligations. Her story showed me that I wasn't crazy for doing what I did. It wasn't selfish, it was necessary for my own well-being. As I sipped my cocktail, the sun setting in the distance, I thought about Diane's words. Maybe it wasn't just about me needing a break from my family. Maybe it was about learning how to live for myself again. For so long, I had been the one sacrificing my happiness, my time, my energy. I was always there for everyone else, fixing their problems, doing what they needed me to do. And now, for the first time, I was choosing myself. I was choosing my peace, my freedom. It wasn't about the wedding or Julia's problems. It wasn't even about the mess I had left behind. It was about me. I had finally realized that it was okay to let go of the guilt, and for once, focus on what made me happy. I had never felt more alive than I did at that moment, sitting there on the beach, with no obligations to anyone but myself. As the days passed, the reality of the situation set in. My family was scrambling to fix things. Julia, frantic and stressed, was calling everyone, sending desperate messages, and probably trying to get them to convince me to come back and save her wedding. But I had made my decision. There was no turning back. I wasn't going to go back to clean up their mess, no matter how much they begged. The idea of being their backup plan, the fixer of all their problems, no longer had any appeal. The guilt I used to feel in these situations was slowly being replaced by a sense of relief. Relief from years of being the one who put everyone else's needs before mine. It was incredibly liberating. When my phone buzzed again with more frantic messages, I rolled my eyes. Another string of texts from my mom. I knew exactly what they said without even opening them. "Julia's devastated. This wedding is falling apart. Please come back, we need you." All of them screaming at me, trying to make me feel like I was the only person who could fix their problems. But I wasn't going to get sucked back in. I had made a vow to myself. No more saving them. No more guilt. I took a deep breath and, without a second thought, blocked their numbers. Just like that, I took back control. My finger hovered over the block button for a second, but then I pressed it firmly. This was my moment to say goodbye to the old me. The one who couldn't say no. The one who always thought his family's happiness came before his own. This time, there was no going back. With the notifications silenced and my phone now free from their constant barrage, I felt an odd sense of peace settle over me. The anxiety, the pressure, the weight of my family's expectations, they were gone. I could breathe. I could finally hear my own thoughts without the constant hum of family drama and guilt trips drowning them out. I stood up from my lounge chair, stretching my arms toward the sky. The warm breeze tousled my hair, and I smiled to myself. I had finally found a way to live for myself without apology, without justification. There was no longer any room for the guilt that used to weigh me down. There was only the present, and I was going to make the most of it. I walked over to the resort desk, requesting to extend my stay for another week. The receptionist, a young woman with a warm smile, looked surprised but didn't hesitate to help me. As she tapped away at the keyboard, I looked around at the resort's beautiful surroundings. The palm trees swaying gently, the crystal clear water lapping against the shore, and the sound of laughter and quiet conversation drifting from the other guests. It was paradise, my paradise. As the receptionist handed me the new booking confirmation, I felt a twinge of something unexpected. Empowerment. I was no longer part of the chaos back home. I was no longer a cog in the wheel of family obligations. I was free. The decision to stay longer felt right, like I was finally doing something for me. I couldn't bring myself to feel bad for Julia. The same person who had cut me out of her life and excluded me from her wedding was now crying for me to return and fix everything. Was she kidding? The hypocrisy of it all was almost too much to bear. For so long, I had sacrificed my happiness to make her and the rest of the family happy. Now, she wanted me back to solve her problems when she had so callously ignored my feelings. But I wasn't interested in being their backup plan anymore. I had learned the hard way that it wasn't my job to fix everything. No one else would ever put me first unless I did it myself. And so, I wasn't going back to be their savior. This time, I was saving myself. Later that afternoon, I found myself walking along the beach, the sun hanging low in the sky, casting a golden hue over everything. The soft sand beneath my feet, the rhythmic sound of the waves, and the distant chatter of other vacationers. It was exactly what I needed. I paused for a moment, taking it all in. I closed my eyes, allowing the moment to settle in my mind and body. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't have a care in the world. I wasn't worried about emails, texts, or phone calls. I wasn't worried about family drama. I wasn't even worried about what would happen when I returned home, because for the first time, I realized that I didn't have to go back. To further explore my growing independence, I struck up a conversation with a fellow traveler at the resort, a middle-aged man named David. He had been divorced twice and, from what he shared, was in the midst of a personal reinvention. His life hadn't been easy, and he'd spent years putting everyone else's needs ahead of his own. He explained how, for a long time, he had sacrificed his happiness to meet the demands of his family and friends, thinking that it was the right thing to do. But eventually, he realized that he had been doing so at the expense of his own peace. David told me that it was never too late to reclaim my life and happiness. He shared something that stuck with me. Life is too short to live for other people. No one's going to thank you for giving up your peace for them. It's your turn now, man. His words hit me harder than I expected. I wasn't the only one who had been putting others first, and I certainly wasn't alone in the struggle to reclaim my happiness. Hearing him speak so openly about his own experiences gave me the reassurance I needed. It was like he had read my mind, but more importantly, he validated my decision to step back from my family. David's advice became a turning point for me. It solidified everything I had been feeling over the past few days. The desire to live for myself, to not feel responsible for anyone else's happiness, and to finally stop putting my own needs last. It was time to embrace my own growth and well-being, without feeling guilty about it. The next few days passed in a haze of perfect serenity. I spent my time exploring the hidden corners of the resort, trying out every activity I could think of. Each moment felt like a small victory. I took long morning walks along the beach, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore as I breathed in the salty air. Late lunches at oceanfront restaurants became my new ritual. The warm breeze and the fresh seafood a reminder that I didn't need to rush through life anymore. I even tried stand-up paddle boarding for the first time, and despite my initial hesitation, it was exhilarating. The sun kissed my skin, and the soft sand between my toes felt grounding. For the first time in forever, I wasn't worrying about anything. I didn't think about home. I didn't think about the wedding. I didn't think about the mess I had left behind. I was finally free from the burden of other people's expectations, and it felt incredible. As I reflected on everything that had led me here, my decision to leave, my refusal to go back, my decision to live for myself, I realized that I had made the best choice. Every step, from blocking my family's calls to extending my stay, had been a conscious decision to put my happiness and peace first. I wasn't going back to pick up their pieces. Not anymore. I had spent so much of my life living for everyone else, trying to fix their problems, solve their issues, and put their needs ahead of mine. But now I was finally living for myself. I didn't owe anyone an explanation for my decision. I had learned that taking care of myself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. And for the first time, I was allowing myself the freedom to just be. Now that you've heard the story, I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the character's journey? Can you relate to their decision? Or maybe you've faced something similar in your own life. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and feel free to share your own experiences or insights. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you can stay tuned for more stories coming your way. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. I truly appreciate your time and support.